Hi guys, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I created a layout that I really enjoyed. I had a great time putting it together. It's a little bit different for me, and I did have a little bit of video problem at the beginning. My scan disc card that goes in my video recorder finally conked out on me. It's just beyond repair. I can't even reformat it. So I did miss a little bit of footage, but I was aware of it, so I went back and I tried to show you guys. I'm going to narrate it right now. So this is me mid-process. So I'm using this tic-tac-toe challenge, which is Mo's challenge on our Facebook group. Make sure that you check out the link in the information section below if you would like to participate in our Facebook group. We have our 27-day challenge, which is here on YouTube, but there's also other challenges throughout the month and lots of fun discussion. I'm going to be using the center row, I guess the center column. I'm going to use a stencil, use 2 or more photos, and use vellum. And so this is a piece of paper that I had from my jelly plate. And I had done some jelly plate stuff over Thanksgiving weekend, and it was the first time I had done it in a long time. And I really liked this pattern paper that it was just one press with the jelly plate. And I really loved it. And so I took my light molding paste by Golden, and I'm just spreading it out with this Tim Holtz Hearts stencil, and this will give me some nice heart-shaped texture. And this golden light molding paste, it dries to a really soft, fluffy texture. It goes on a little bit like icing. It's a similar texture to a whipped icing, and it dries to a texture that's very similar to like a shaped fun foam. And I really love this molding paste. It's my very favorite molding paste of them all. So I did slow it down so that I could catch up because I missed some of the process. So I started with that piece of background paper, and it's basically just, I will show you my jelly plate pretty soon. I've been planning to show it for a while. But I did some jelly plating this weekend, and that gave me that purpley pink, I guess it's sort of like a magenta color, and I love the effect. I love how printed it looks. It's just such a beautiful handmade paper. I just love it. And so I slowed down this part so that I could get caught up, but I will speed this up again very quickly here. And I just use a baby wipe to clean off my palette knife, and I'm also going to use that same baby wipe to clean my stencil. There we go, back to normal speed. And the molding paste does really stick to stencils, so I'm going to take my time, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of water, and that will help dissolve any extra modeling paste that is stuck to my stencil, so that it will lay flat on future projects. I'm not so worried about it being clean as much as I'm worried about it not being bumpy. So these are my stencils. I keep my small stencils separate from my big stencils because I'm using them a lot more these days, and so I was finding that they were getting all mixed up with one another. So now I'm just taking my heat gun, and I'm going to heat this to dry it. And I find that this molding paste by Golden, it dries really fast, much faster than some other texture pastes and embossing pastes and so on that I've used. And it definitely dries much faster than the Liquitex glass bead stuff that I've used before, and even faster than the Liquitex sand texture paste stuff, whatever that stuff is called. So that's another reason that I really love this. So I bought a pack of white cardstock finally, so I can jump in and start using white cardstock again. Sorry about the focus there. So I'm actually going to, I wanted to use that pattern paper that I just made from the leftover jelly plate piece and then my molding paste. I want to use that as a piece of pattern paper here, and my brayer just isn't working. So I'm going to get my speedball brayer. That's a better brayer. I was wanting to use a smaller one just to have smaller brayer marks on it, but this one will do fine. So I wanted to have a layer on the background of color as well, but I don't want it to be this bright. But what I'm going to do is I want it to be I want it to be like a layered painted background. So I'm starting with this really bright magenta color. I'm using Liquitex Basics here. acrylic color, and I'm using medium magenta and a little bit of titanium white. And so you see now I'm just adding some white and I'm going over it, and see how that gives a nice muted effect on the paper. And I really like to do it this way. I like this a lot better than mixing my paint and then putting it on. If I mix my paint and then put it on, it's going to be all one color, and you're not going to get this sort of splotchy, messy, layered look that you get when you add just different layers of similar toned paint. So I'm actually really, really loving how this looks. I like that it's very close to white, but it's not white. And I like that it is much more subtle than the background paper, not the background paper, it's much more subtle than the handmade paper, pattern paper that I'm going to be layering on it. And so I'm taking my heat gun to dry it. And again, you know, when you use a brayer, everything the paint layers are so thin that they dry super, super fast. I really love how that looks. It's just so pretty. I like it so much I took a picture. What I really like about it is the back and forth, like the vertical and horizontal lines in it. And I just really love how paint looks when it's applied with a brayer. So here is my pattern paper it was sort of the inspiration for making my background paper, was that I wanted to use a similar color. I can't remember what color I used on that jelly plate paper because it was too long ago. It was last week. And so I just added some Heidi Swapp Primrose Mist just to accentuate the hearts a little bit and to give just one more layer and a little bit more interest to that paper. And I'm thinking I'm going to use the top of this, and then I'll use the bottom for something else. But then I thought maybe I'll use the bottom on this as well. And it kind of gives me two handmade pattern papers that are layered with one another. And I'm cringing a little bit to be covering up those big, beautiful hearts behind the heart paper. I really like the big ones, but I just didn't want them on this particular layout. I like the different shades of pink here, how I've got that kind of purpley magenta pink that I started with, and then this more soft pinky pink as well. I added a half a doily there just because I wanted something soft. I want this layout to be very, very soft and very different than my normal layouts. I have to work hard to make a soft layout because I don't do them very often. So I just noticed, I grabbed my texture drawer and I noticed this little die cut piece that I must have made at some point. I don't know. It looks like a die, like a steel rule die, or a thin metal die. I can't remember. I don't think I have that die, so I might have borrowed it from somebody. But anyhow, here I am. I'm going to rescue some of these hearts. There you go. I'll use those on a different project. I just didn't have the heart to cover them up. So that's how my main layers are going to be. I just cut two pieces off of that little zigzaggy die cut piece, and now I'm running. You saw me attach that clump of papers to the background, but I actually took them apart to run them through my sewing machine individually. I'm just going to run a couple of rows of stitching on the top and on the bottom in opposite corners, and kind of diagonally opposite corners. And then I'm going to run the whole thing through my sewing machine. Sorry for the weird angle and seeing my weird arm. I didn't realize it was set up like that. That's a little different than my normal setup. And I'm just being as messy as I can. I want the stitching to go off onto the background page and run all the way through, making a horizontal line along the center of my layout and sticking all of my layers down to my background. And I really wanted the strings to hang, like the threads to hang, and some of them got caught up in some of the other stitching, so I had to cut them loose in order to have them hang. My bobbin had pink thread and my top of my machine had white thread. And so, I'm not sure what I'm doing now. You know what? I think I'm reprinting. No, I went to my vellum drawer. I am going to replace that top photo or the big photo, because it's going to end up getting some mixed media, some ink or something on it. So now I'm I'm matting this photo with vellum. Vellum was one of the items in my tic-tac-toe challenge, so I have to use vellum. I have to use 2 photos, and I have to use, what was the other thing? A stencil. So this is the 3rd and last item in my challenge, and then I'm free to just kind of cut loose and do whatever I want. And I'm just layering a whole bunch of little bits of vellum here. I didn't have any that were exactly the right size. I have a whole stack of vellum, but rather than cutting into a new piece, I thought I would just use up some of these scraps. And I'm just gluing them on so that they're pretty much all lined up. I don't want too many weird wonky angles. I just want the layers there that I want a very, see now I'm just noticing that there's a little something on that photo. I'm going to layer them like this, but the little blotch, you can't really see it on the video, but the little blotch is right around where her hands and her phone is. And so I just went to my desk there when I was missing for a second, and I reprinted that photo at the 4x4 size. The smaller photo there is a 3x3. So now I just grabbed my Felicity Jane kit. I have the Happy Day kit, which was designed by Sue's Fish. And I grabbed this kit because I knew it had some black and white elements in it. I wasn't sure here if I was going to mat this photo with the polka dot tissue paper, but it's already matted with vellum, so I felt like I really wanted some pattern, like some paper, as opposed to something else that's very, very thin. I wanted something a little bit thicker. And that's just too big of a mat, but that is the way I want it to be. So I'm just kind of playing around with it, and I'm going to cut it down because it's just a little bit too big. And that is better. I like that, but I have to smooch it over a little tiny bit, scooch it over a little tiny bit, because otherwise you don't see that. I wanted to see that pink homemade pattern paper that I have. I wanted that edge sticking out there. So my photo is printed now, so I'm just trimming it down, and I'm going to stick it right on top. But look what I did. I put it upside down right in the spot on my mat where the mist had been, that pink mist that I sprayed over the hearts. So I replaced one photo with a blotch, and then I replaced it with a photo with mist all over it. But it's okay because the place that the mist was, it was so subtle and it's so soft, and it doesn't make a big difference. So I'm just going to go with it. So the Felicity Jane Happy Day kit came with all of these beautiful white tags, and I haven't had a chance to use very many of them. So I'm going to use 2 of them right here today. I thought about using a 3rd, but I'm just going to use the 2 little ones. I also had this tag on my desk, which I'm going to make some of these, this tassel. I had this tassel on my desk, and I'm planning to make some tassels for another project. And so I had it out as a model, but I'm going to use it. So I'll have to get another model, I guess, or just use my memory. I think I have some more of them in my stash. I had pulled it out for my recent kit that I pulled out for the Doctors Are In series that I have with Irit. So more cut aparts from the Felicity Jane kit. I just cut out these 3 labels. One is yellow, one is pink, and one is mint green. And they're all, except for yellow, they're all the colors. Well, there is yellow actually, because there's yellow on the photo. The photo is one that I ran through the Tangent app, and so it has a yellow circle and a blue circle right printed onto the photo. That's the larger one. So the Felicity Jane kit also comes with that flare, or not with flare, they're little vellum punched scalloped circles or little flowers, depending on how you look at them. So I'm going to make some embellishments with the tags and the scalloped circle vellum and a stamp. I'm also going to use the sequins that come in that kit. So I'm taking a stamp from the stamp set. At first I was going to use the flower stamp, but then I decided to use the heart stamp. I'm just going to use one of them. So I'm going to selectively ink up one of the hearts, and I'm trying to stamp it a little bit messy. Now these tags have a shiny surface to them, which I didn't notice until I already stamped. And so that means that I probably should have used Stays On ink, because I'm going to smudge one of them because I didn't use Stays On ink. But it ends up looking okay, so it's all right. So you saw me just dump a couple of sequins out there. Those came in the kit as well. and I stapled, and I ran out of staples. So I used my tiny attacher to staple a sequin and the vellum circle to the tag so that it's overlapping and kind of you can see the shadow of the stamp underneath. I think that makes a really pretty embellishment. I'm going to add 2 more sequins, 1 to each of the tags. There we go. And I'm using my Tombow Mono Multi for adhering the sequins to the tags. And now I have 2 little handmade embellishments. They're not quite done yet though. I'm just going to put all of those sequins back in the little cute, adorable jar that they come in. I love Felicity Jane kits. They're so cute. And now I just need some string. I'm going to trim off the little bits of the circle that hang off the edge of those tags. And I'm thinking about where I might want to put them. I'm thinking they'll want to go down in that bottom right-hand corner. I have some Stampin' Up! White twine. I love it because it's very soft and it's a beautiful pure white. I love that white Stampin' Up! String. And sorry that I'm a little bit off camera for this. I was zoomed in a little bit more than I thought. I usually have a pretty good sense of where my hands need to be, but I was a little off this time. So I just tied 2 loops so that they're each on different strings. And then I'm actually going to open the little hoop that this tassel comes on. This tassel is from I think it's from the Cute Girl collection from Crate Paper. It is, yes. And so I'm going to hang them right along with the tassel on that little gold hoop. I think that's really cute. And just to keep them layered nicely, I'm just using a little bit of Tombow Mono Multi adhesive to stick them to the tassels and to one another in the way that I want them to fall so that they're not flopping all over the place when they're inside of my scrapbooking album. Now, I used a basic gray sanding tool to pry the little ends off of that brad. I was going to staple that in place, but I thought, oh, that's going to be a nightmare. So instead, I'm going to use a glue dot. I'm going to put a medium-sized glue dot underneath of where the strings and the hoop is, and then another one on top of where they are, which doesn't matter because I'm going to cover it with a 3rd glue dot, which is going to glue this heart brad without its back, so it's just an enamel piece now, to the top there, so that the tassel and the 2 tags are hanging from the heart. And now I want to put those pins. Those pins are from my stash. They're not from the kit, and I want to put them. They actually were I pulled them for the little mini kit that I used last weekend, and so I just grabbed a little piece of foam adhesive and I put it in between my layers so that I could stick my pins into it. I like using foam adhesive as a pin cushion to hold my pins in place. Now I have a Martha Stewart leaf punch that I rarely ever use, but I thought, trying to have a soft touch on this one, it's a perfect opportunity to use more flowers and leaves and organic shapes than I normally use. So these leaves are just perfect. I love how frilly and delicate they are. They're so pretty. And I just punched them out of a piece of pattern paper from the kit, just bunching up my thread there to make it look nice and messy. And then this dot adhesive, it has a slightly blue hue to it, but it's mostly transparent. So I can put some of that dot adhesive on my paper and then ball up my thread and stick it in it. And then I just take my adhesive removing tool that's from EK Success, and I just rub off any of the extra adhesive that isn't covered by the little bits of thread, and that will kind of do me good. Now I have this puffy sticker that says happy, and I'm thinking about a title that says something like it makes her happy, or whatever makes her happy, or this makes her happy, something like that. So in order for me to know where I'm going to place happy, I have to place my second photo here. And whoops, everything is moving around a little bit too much, and I stuck the photo down a little bit too prematurely. I thought I had left some of the backings on the right adhesive, but I think I took them off of the wrong ones. Anyhow, it worked in the end. And I just put the second photo a little bit askew. I had to use some pop dots to hold up the edges of that heart where it falls off the edge of the layers. And now I'm trying to place these letters in the same way that they were on the sticker sheet, because I like how they were layered and kind of bumped up together in a casual way. So I just replicated it. Now, I don't like that black and white, so I'm going to color it in. And I couldn't remember what kind of markers. I think I've seen Jen Scow color in these puffy stickers, and I couldn't remember if you had to use alcohol markers or not to do it. I wasn't sure if other kinds of markers might just kind of like pool up and not cover it well. If you don't have Copic markers, you can just test your own markers, but it is a bit of a slick plasticky surface, so you might need to use some type of a permanent marker in order for the marker to stick. So I just chose my Copic markers. I have RV63 is the pink that I put on the heart, and then I had originally picked out BG11 for the letters, but it was way too pale. So then I picked BG23. And I like how that looks, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for the first couple of words of that title. I have this flare that came in the Felicity Jane kit that I want to use, and I'm wanting to start a third little cluster. And you see how I had already put those cut apart labels? I had kind of already put them there to remind myself that I might want to do something over there. So I am indeed going to do that. So I'm just going to attach them now that I know that that's what I actually want to do. I had a third little leaf punch that was a little bit of overkill for the first spot that I was putting leaves. So I thought I'd put the extra one right here with a little bit of Tombow Mono Multi adhesive and then a glue dot for the flare badge. And that's the beginnings of what's going to be, I guess, my third cluster, because the second one, I guess, would be the happy and the heart, which is sort of the title. So now I have this Coats upholstery thread, and I love this thread because it holds a circular shape when you take it off the spool. So it's really easy to spool it up into a circle. The first one I didn't staple, but I almost always staple my bunches of thread. It just gives me something to hang on to, and it also gives me something to stick into the glue that will hold it all together for sure when I stick it into glue. And in that case, I just pried up the enamel or the flare badge and stuck the little bundle of thread right into the glue dot that's already holding down the flare badge. And now I'm just feeling like I need more embellishment on this side by the flare badge. So I'm coloring in another one of these puffy stickers. I still haven't zoomed out yet, so I'm a little bit out of frame. I'm using the same pink. And then I'm going to use the same mint green color as well. Again, that's RV63 for the pink and BG23 for the green. And then I went back with a darker RV66 to color the centers. I didn't want to introduce another color. And then I thought, oh my, I might as well just add a third puffy sticker here, because the first puffy sticker is the heart that says happy. And so I like to do things in threes. So this way I have a colored puffy sticker in each of the three embellishment clusters. I'm just going to rejig those little stick pins a little tiny bit. I have thread in two of the three clusters, but I will add thread eventually to the third. The third cluster is looking a little bit plain. At first, before I decide to embellish the third cluster, I have to figure out what my title is going to be. And again, I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be something happy. What makes her happy or this makes her happy are the two ones that I'm sort of thinking of. I'm looking for the right letter stickers, and I'm really looking for a tile letter sticker. I love tile letter stickers. So this one is nice because it brings in some of that peachy color that is in one of the tags that I created. But it's a little bit too much. So I decided to go with these ones, and I'm going to call it Happy Girl instead of What Makes Her Happy. And that's just because I like it better. it just, I wanted to put something on that heart, and I thought integrating it with the title would work really well. So like the two tags, I'm going to put two little sequins on this heart. So it kind of ties the heart into some of the other things that are on the page because it brings those sequins into it. And I haven't yet, but I'm going to put some thread behind that heart to add a little bit of embellishment to it. I pulled out my Freckled Fawn kit because I knew that it had black and white in it. And I'm just choosing two chipboard phrase stickers. One says "such a happy moment" and the other says "ha ha ha," because we tend to laugh at her musically. She's got a great sense of humor and she always does funny things on Musically. Musically is like a musical social media. It's kind of like Instagram, but it's with video and music, and kids like lip sync to and dance along with different popular music, little clips of popular music. It's really fun. I wish they had it when I was a kid. I would have eaten that stuff up. I loved singing along when I was a kid to music. So I'm just taking a third bundle and stapling it together, and this time I'm going to just stick it to the back of that heart sticker, which is exposed, so it's already sticky, so it'll hold the thread in place. Adding a fourth punched leaf from that Martha Stewart punch, and that just kind of adds a little bit of interest up there. Adding some white Mr. Huey's to the 3 different places where I have clusters, and I'm going to dry those a little bit. I had to go away and come back. That's why my set is a little bit different. I had already put out my Heidi Swap nonstick mats that I use for mist. I have to use an old memory card now because my big one is not working, so I have to kind of stop midway through my layout and upload everything onto my computer before I can go any further. So it's a bit of a pain. I'm going to have to get another card. So I'm adding some black splatter here, and I'm using Liquitex ink and my Heidi Swap nozzle, and just kind of making a couple of final touches. And here I think I'm done, even though I've forgotten 2 things that I planned to do. I didn't do any journaling yet, and you're not going to see me journal because I forgot it twice actually. So this is how the layout looks. I love all these pretty layers, and the splatter is just so pretty and splatted. I really like those drops. And wow, isn't this a much more feminine page than I usually make? I quite like it though. It's very pretty. I don't know. I must have been channeling my inner, my inner feminine side. And I love how the background paper looks with the brayered ink on it. It's just, so yummy. It's so much prettier than a plain piece of white paper. So it's missing its journaling, but it's also missing a frame. So I did want to mat this one on a bold black and white paper. The problem with this one from the I Am collection is that the white is too dirty. So it's just not going to work. And then the Scraptastic one was just not bold enough, that kind of zigzaggy black and white. So this is another Scraptastic one, and it just says happy all over it. Even though you're not going to be able to read the word happy, I really love that the word that happens to be in the background is the same word that is in the title. So I like that it kind of fits with the theme, even though I'm the only one who really knows it. Well, I guess all you guys know it too. But somebody looking at my album wouldn't know it. So it is very hard to put a layout that is still wet onto another layer, but I'm trying to do it anyways because I don't have much patience. I've already lost a bit of time because of my memory card issues and needing to upload midway through. So that's what it looks like. And here are the close-up photos. A little bit overexposed. I'm sorry about that. But I love how light and pale and pretty and delicate this page is. It's so different than many. It's not the first feminine layout I've ever done, but it's definitely a departure, and I really, really love it. I love to have something a little bit different. There's the journaling that I did add before. I actually took the pictures and had to take them all over again, but that's okay. Messy journaling. I added it really quickly, so sorry about that. But I like how it turns out, and I like how it integrates with the rest of the layout. So at the end of this, you're going to see the URL for my Facebook group, and there's also a link in the information section. Go on over and check out Mo's Tic-Tac-Toe Challenge if you haven't seen it yet. It's a lot of fun, and have a really great scrappy week.